Somebody else is going to do it. So we'll try to move along here. So first of all, introductions. We'll go counterclockwise here and give us your name and who you represent. And so.
I'm Marcia Gassis. I'm the planning board chair in Dover.
Tom Clark, Dover.
Claude Garrison, DOT.
Brad Nichols, Coast.
Beverly Cray, UNH.
Sandy Gaines, Rochester.
Comeau, Brookfield.
Paul Lockwood, New Hampshire, DES.
Bob Jaff in Rochester.
Tom Crosby, Madbury.
Brian Taft, Somersworth.
Stephen Jeffrey, Barrington.
Cynthia Copeland, Strafford Regional.
Mark Ambrose, Strafford Regional.
Dan Commander, Strafford Regional.
Martin, Strafford Regional Planning.
Okay, moving right along to item 2, staff communications. Cynthia and Marlon.
Yes, we just wanted to let everybody know that we'll be recruiting for our summer interns. Normally, the weather's a little different this year, so we might be starting part-time a little earlier, but normally our interns run from when school gets out, school release from the universities sometime in mid-May into late August, early September. So we'll be advertising by the end of March, and so if you know any students that would be interested in working on our summer internship program, they do data collection for traffic counts and the culvert assessments and other of our transportation-related work for data collection and analysis. And secondly, as always, we encourage you to bring the information that you receive here back to your city or town hall and talk to staff if you think there's anything relevant to your community that needs to be communicated, and we're willing to assist you with that if you would like us to support you or come to a meeting or explain something or send additional information. So please let us know and continue to do the good job that you're doing in sharing information. That's all I have.
I just wanted to remind everyone that we're hosting a water workshop on this coming Thursday, March 22nd here in this conference room. We sent out a big mail out to a lot of different people. And if you know of anyone that might be interested, there's some handouts over there. We've got a lot of great speakers. There will be AICP credits available, lunches included. Or, and just contact the email address or call us here if you're interested in attending.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to item 3, which is a public hearing that's been scheduled, and to receive public comment for updates to the Coordinated Public Transit and Human Services Transportation Plan for Southeast New Hampshire, and I understand Mark will address that issue.
All right, so after kind of long, confusing process here with the coordinated plan, we're hopefully finally ready to go with it. So what's changed since the last meeting? As you'll remember, the last meeting we were reviewing the review of the first public comment period for the coordinated plan. We had received a lot of comments for the first iteration of the coordinated plan. So as advised by our TAC committee, we went out for a second public comment period after incorporating a lot of those comments into the document. So what we did was go ahead and incorporate those comments. This is the updated draft. It's been on the website for a little over 30 days at this point. There are quite a few changes. Pretty much every comment that we had received was somehow addressed in this document, in this second iteration. And once again, just the list of comments for the coordinated plan, the original one, they will be in the appendices. And as you can see, there's the comment and then how it was addressed underneath each of them. And that was for the first coordinated plan iteration. So for this second coordinated plan, the biggest changes came in chapters 6 and 8, I believe. And these chapters were, once again, pretty much wholesale rewrites of the chapters so that we could, or to make them slightly more accurate than they were, to word things a little bit differently. We kept some of the information from the original, if I can find chapter 6 here somewhere, the original chapter 6 at the beginning here, but pretty much everything after the beginning comes out of the comments that we received for the chapter. So with this second iteration of the public comment period and basically an entirely new document that we went out with, we received 2 comments. One was from Coast and the other was from Paul at DES. Both the comments actually said basically the same thing. They were both talking about access to employment and how our data showed that one of the priorities for our region was providing access to employment for those who either didn't have a car or they were economically depressed in some way. And that was really something we had missed out on in the final chapter of our recommendations. So to address that, Rad actually provided a nice little bullet here that pretty much captures what we included in the short-term recommendations. So we added this, and as you can see, it talks about how that comment was addressed below here. So those were the only 2 comments we received for this, again, for the second iteration of this document. If there's any questions about some of the changes or how it's different, I guess feel free to ask them. I'll do my best to comment on those.
Comments, input? Anyone have anything to add? I'll call the hearing to a close. And we will then move on to action items that require a motion. And first of all, 4.1, the draft MPO minutes of February 17th, 2012. Do I hear a motion for action?
I see my name on the minutes, so I'll make a motion to accept as reported.
And who is the grave seconder? Second. Okay. Any discussion, comments? Yes. Oh, yeah, right. I'm supposed to give you an opportunity to. I'm sorry about that.
That's all right. I received a comment from Tom Clark regarding page 4, number 8. I had wrote the chairman when there wasn't one that day. So we changed it so that it states M. Ambrosi because he's the one who ran the meeting, and also asked in the chair's absence if we had procedure in the bylaws to appoint a chair from the members present, which I confirmed that we do not have that in the bylaws. So we'll have to put that in a future agenda to address that. And that was the only change, and that's been done since that comment that
Okay. I'll call a question. All in favor of the motion to accept the minutes of the 17th, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, so declared.
I abstain, since I wasn't here. There.
Okay.
I'm not here.
The item 4.2, the Coordinated Public Transit and Human Services Transportation Plan for Southeast New Hampshire. Do I hear a motion for action on that issue?
Move to accept.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any other comments before I call the question?
I'd just like to thank the staff. They did a fantastic job. It was a lot more work than any of us thought was going to be necessary, and it was done in a very compressed time in order to be able to allow the region to access federal funding in this grant round. So thank you very much.
Okay. Any others? Not, I'll call a question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it, so declared. Thank you. Moving on to item 5, discussion item, Intelligent Transportation Systems update by Dan.
Right. All right. Yesterday, we held our stakeholder meeting.
Dan,
Before you begin, would it be possible, again, there are more than just us that are listening to all of this. Could you just give a thumbnail summary of what Intelligent Transportation Systems is before you sort of get into the more details?
Sure.
Thank you.
Well, basically, ITS or Intelligent Transportation Systems are either in-vehicle or on-road technologies that can help increase efficiency or increase the safety of the transportation system or transportation network. So, let's see, common examples would be things such as signal coordination, the variable message signs you've seen up on probably 95 and then the Spalding Turnpike. So things like that help users of the roadway to either, make their mobility more efficient. And part of that is what we have to do as an MPO is create this regional ITS architecture and strategic plan, which basically helps provide the framework for coordinating stakeholders, which is what we did yesterday, but also to figure out projects that would help increase our efficiency and safety in our transportation system. So we completed our initial architecture and strategic plan in 2008, and we were due for an update this year, so that's what we did. We are currently working on the update. We've had 2 meetings so far with our consultants, IBI group out of Boston. Yesterday was our larger stakeholder meeting. It wasn't as well attended as I hoped it would be, but there was still some great conversation that took place. We invited over 50 stakeholders to the meeting, and I think about 20 or so were there yesterday. But like I said, we still had some good conversation. We were able to provide lots of good information to the consultants in order for them to put together all these ideas and projects and try to figure out the best way moving forward to update the plan. But things we talked about, for example, yesterday we talked about specific corridors that we want to target for ITS improvements. Basically, we talked about major commute corridors like 125, Route 4, 108. Up till now, most of the ITS has happened on your interstates, Spalding Turnpike, but we want to start seeing those systems filter out into the other major arterials. So that's one of the things that we're focusing on with this update is to filter those systems out into those minor arterials, which have seen lots of accidents, lots of congestion, and we really think ITS could help out those corridors in a significant way. So we talked about the corridors we want to target, communications infrastructure, where there might be fiber optics or different technologies like any type of internet technology where you can pass video and information through. Let's see, transit signal coordination, transit signal priorities, real-time traveler information systems like what UNH and Coast are working to get implemented right now. Emergency management coordination. We had somebody from the Rockingham Sheriff's Department there yesterday who was provided some very good information. And of course, DOT was present there yesterday and talked about a lot of the systems that they have planned and have implemented in recent years. But that's just sort of some of the things that we talked about yesterday. Ed?
For the people on the internet, for general information, does the ITS projects, is it a requirement to get federal funding? Do you have to have an ITS program to get the federal funding?
Well, it's a requirement that MPOs have the regional architecture and regional ITS strategic plan. Say if Coast wanted to implement like an AVL project, like what UNH is currently doing, and they just applied for and got funding for through CMAQ. That would need to be in the ITS plan in order for it to get funding.
You said
federal
through
funding.
CMAQ, is that what you
Yes, which is a federal funding source. So, yes. But on the other side, there's like the Newington-Dover Bridge going on right now. It doesn't have to be called out specifically that there are cameras or variable message signs in order for those systems to go into a larger project. So I guess if you have a specific project like an automatic vehicle location system, that needs to be called out. But smaller systems that are part of a larger transportation project don't necessarily need to be specified in order for them to happen or be implemented. Brad?
The question was, do you have to do an ITS project? And the answer is no. They encourage you, when you do a federally funded project, to look at ways that you might be able to implement ITS to help that project, but no, there's no requirement. This just spells out, here are the elements of the national ITS architecture that this region expects to be able to consider when those opportunities come up.
So, will you get more money or more funding if you decide to do the ITS system or project? That's my question.
Not necessarily, no.
It is some of the money that's supposedly out there available, what being used for these spy in your car towers that are going up on all the turnpikes, or are those different monies and different program, and that's not really helping the driver directly? It's a secondhand.
So you've noticed those towers or poles, right?
Oh yeah, I mean they see
16.
forever.
Yeah.
And inside cars.
That was paid for with turnpike money.
Oh good. That's less miles that could get paved.
Yeah.
That's great.
And those are basically real-time cameras.
They're not considered under this category? Well, I bet they are, because they're quote unquote, they're going to help you avoid.
It's certainly an ITS system,
Yeah.
and that's being fed into the New Hampshire 511 system, where you can go on and actually look at the traffic on the Spalding if you want to. They're not security cameras. Security cameras are a little bit different.
You believe that, don't you? I do too.
They basically don't record the video that they're
just live time.
capturing. It's just live,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's really for emergency response, so that they can get to the location
Right,
quickly.
in my front seat,
Yeah.
inside my open glove compartment. Yeah. Paranoid? Yes.
But the larger goal of the ITS plan and architecture is really to get everybody on board and try to get these systems communicating not only within a region but across regions and across states. And that's really the main focus of having the requirements that we do to do this architecture and plan.
So, I guess just to follow up on that last statement Dan made, just kind of touching on the attendance at our last meeting. the goal of this regional architecture is to have basically a standardized way to do things across jurisdictions. It's one of the big goals. So when Dover stops and Somersworth starts, 108 doesn't stop. And if we're having traffic signal coordination, we want it to go between both towns. We don't want it to stop at the Dover line and then have a different system for Somersworth and a different one for Rochester. So with that said, I think it's really important that as many communities attend these meetings as possible, because we need that input and we need the buy-in from communities so that we have consistency across jurisdictions. And that was one of the things we were missing at the meeting. We had a lot of different agencies there. We had a few communities there, but it's really important that communities attend these meetings, because it's this coordination between software makes these ITS solutions work a lot better than having a bunch of independent things that don't have great connectivity and don't communicate that well. So I guess for the greatest benefit, understanding the needs of all the different communities, or what's in place in the different communities, or what's happening in the communities is really important at these meetings to start up. Otherwise, the people developing this plan for us won't have all the information and won't understand what the goals are. And that, that's true for communities in Rockingham too. I don't think we had one municipality show up from Rockingham, and they have two, but they have, some pretty big communities like Salem, who wasn't there, and some of these other places. So I just encourage everybody to send somebody from the community who has some idea of, what's going on, I guess with the traffic lights, or, somebody from Public Works who would be involved in this kind of stuff, because it's, to get the best plan, to get the most useful plan, we really need everybody at the table to be sharing information and to be buying into the goals.
I just would add, we're going to seek you out, so we will be doing focus interviews. We're very fortunate over here, whether you like the cameras on the Spalding or not. This is really one of the most effective ways that we can increase our system efficiency and safety, and extending it into our major arterial commute routes is very significant. We have 95 and 16. The state's done a great job getting this all in place, and our system structure is empty and we need to refill it. The technology has changed tremendously in the last 5 years. I mean, just think in your own personal life how your communication has changed, and all of this helps you and our other residents and businesses, freight traveling through, to be safe on the highways and to keep efficiency for movement of freight traffic and vehicles. So we will be reaching out to you with a series of questions for the communities to make sure that that this is covered. It's very, very essential. Back to the funding, the congestion mitigation and air quality funding, always traffic coordination projects are always on the list. Last time it was Portsmouth, it's been Nashua, Manchester had projects. These are always requesting funding from congestion mitigation and air quality. These are very important, and getting them coordinated on the architecture and system level is essential for the efficiency.
Dan, I'd like to make an observation and then a question. I think we need to recognize the fact that any tool can have multiple purposes. There's the old adage, give a boy a hammer and the whole world becomes a nail. And I think we need to recognize the fact that the same cameras that can help with congestion mitigation can also be used to invade people's personal privacy. And I think in our society we balance those kinds of things, and I think we need to recognize the fact that different people are going to fall different places along that spectrum. So I think it's just something we need to acknowledge and recognize, that while this does good things, that there are some people who are going to be concerned about the potential for abuse. So that was my observation. The question I have is whether or not the committee has a section or a component that looks at measurement. If we're going to be doing these things, it would be nice to know which of the things are the most effective, which are the things that really accomplish what we're trying to accomplish. And so doing them because we think they will work is one thing. Doing them because we've got some measurable, quantitative way of showing that they do work is another. So is there a component there that looks at ways in which you can measure the success of the implementation of different techniques and tasks and things of that sort?
Certain systems, yes, they do have that data capturing component to them. Say,
well, capturing data is one thing. There's data all over the place. Is somebody after? Do we figured out a way to analyze
that data? You can analyze how that ITS system or ITS has improved that intersection or improved traffic flow along that section of road. So let's see. Some of the, I guess a good example would be some of the new or newer traffic signals can actually record turning movements. So as cars are going through an intersection or turning right or turning left, those signals can capture that information, and you can then download that information to see how efficiently cars are moving through that intersection. So not every technology has that data collection component where then you can analyze the improvement or how well that system has improved the efficiency or safety of that area of the transportation system. But it is something that we've been talking about at our initial meeting and the stakeholder meeting is being able to capture that data and ultimately being able to measure how well that system has improved or not improved that area of roadway.
Okay. I mean, to the extent that you can, my recommendation, my request would be that there be a separate sort of piece of that chapter or that section that specifically proactively deals, not just sort of letting it can happen, but actually setting out some sort of protocol that says, you gather data, improvements are made, and then somebody measures, or you measure first, you do something, you measure after to see if there's a change, and then you do some fine tuning, and that process keeps going. Because if you don't, then there's an awful lot of things we just do that we think are going to help, but we don't ever go back and see if they really did. And I think that can be very informative about how we go forward.
Yeah, it's certainly something that we can bring up, see if there's an opportunity to put in a section. I don't know if it would fit into the architecture. It would probably fit into the strategic plan or the final plan. But that is something that we can talk with IBI, see if they've done something like that in the past. And that's actually not that I want to end this right now, but that's a good segue into the next discussion item. But I guess sticking with ITS for now, Cynthia was talking about we're going to be following up with communities and agencies who weren't able to make it to the meeting yesterday. Just a few questions that we're going to be asking, just to give you a heads up. We're going to be asking things like, of course, any transportation issues or needs that your community or agency has. Let's see, any relevant planning documents to ITS. Has a community or an agency adopted any recent ITS standards for implementing ITS in their community? Let's see. And any opportunities they think might be available for ITS. So that's the type of stuff that we're going to be following up on, just in order to fill those gaps that we might have had from yesterday. Because like I said, it was not as well attended as I would have liked it to have been yesterday, but I think we can still gather this information together and be able to fuel this plan moving forward. So I guess the next steps with ITS are to compile all this information, try to figure out the major needs and systems that might be, I guess, good to implement over the next 10 years. And we're going to have another follow-up stakeholder meeting. It's going to be a stakeholder review meeting where we look at all this information that's been compiled and basically say, yes or no, this is a good system, we want this system, we think it'll work with this region and across regions.